Now, you aren't imagining things. It really has been more than a month since Nintendo announced a classic game for their online service. While we sit here waiting for their next announcement, it's time to once again take a look at the last few Nintendo Entertainment System games that need to be given the review crew treatment. These include 8-bit gems like Metroid, Blaster Master, Wrecking Crew, and the original Mario Brothers. Sure, all these games hit the Nintendo Switch Online service years ago, but I still need to ask, are any of these games actually worth playing? To answer that question, I decided to flip through the pages of Electronic Gaming Monthly, Nintendo Magazine System, Computer and Video Games, and more classic magazines to see what the critics said back when these games first came out. Get ready to kick some turtles and lay some pipe, because it's time once again for another exciting episode of Nintendo Switch Online Review Crew. Part side-scrolling platformer and part overhead action game, Blaster Master was an 8-bit game full of ideas. It's the kind of game where you'd be driving around in a tank 1 minute and then fighting a giant lobster boss the next. Complete with a great story and a bunch of incredibly memorable stages, this quickly became a fan favorite on the Nintendo Entertainment System. While the sequels didn't fare all that well, Sunsoft captured lightning in the bottle with this first installment, making it a great addition to the Nintendo Switch Online's library. When it comes to the reviews, the critics were completely won over by Blaster Master's unique approach. Electronic Gaming Monthly gave it a score of hit, which is actually the second best score back before they established their more familiar 10-point scale. I was hooked on Blaster Master right from the start. It has great play and executes the theme with responsive interactivity that is impossible to ignore. Despite Blaster Master's dual scenarios, everything works well without the game becoming crowded or unbalanced. Blaster Master has all the addictive qualities of the most popular arcade games, and the strategic overtones of blockbuster adventure carts like The Legend of Zelda. Blaster Master is a powerful game that will definitely please. It's also worth noting that in the same issue, they gave Blaster Master the award for Best Original Game, once again cementing their love for this 8-bit classic. Mean Machines also liked Blaster Master, giving the game a high score of 91%. Rad explained that Blaster Master was released in Japan and America some time ago, and now it's finally reached these shores. It really was worth the wait, because it's such an excellent title. The cute graphics aren't as sickening as you might expect, and add to the bizarre tone of the proceedings, with the accompanying sound effects and tunes promoting the atmosphere still further. Blaster Master is definitely one of the best of the current batch of NES games, and should be added to your collection forthwith. Look, these reviews aren't wrong, because Blaster Master is a genuine 8-bit classic. Maybe it's because the sequels weren't all that good, but I feel like this is one of those games that's kind of been forgotten over time, which is really all the more reason why you should discover this gem on the Switch. Long before they became super and saved the princess from the evil Bowser, the Mario Brothers were stars of a much more grounded game. A port of a 1983 arcade game, Mario Brothers sees our plumbing heroes fighting turtles underneath the city and using the sewer pipes to pick up coins. It's a much smaller game than what we would see from these characters in Nintendo, harkening back to the early days of gaming when the experience was more about just staying alive and racking up a high score. And while these Mario Brothers aren't as well known as their super counterparts, there is something about this formula that Nintendo really liked, as they just kept coming back to the series with games like Mario Clash on the Virtual Boy, and of course the Mario Brothers Classic mode that came with all 4 Super Mario Advance games. As you can imagine, the reviews were positive, but nowhere near as high as what we saw with the Super Mario Brothers games. Giving it an 80%, Computer and Video Games explains that what makes this game really enjoyable is the 1 or 2 player option, which allows Mario and Luigi to play simultaneously, either as a team or as enemies. For me, the competitive edge of two-player battling together really makes the game. But the game is still incredibly enjoyable when you play solo. The graphics are simple and clean, but it's the gameplay that is superb. Simple, yet incredibly addictive. Go for it! Nintendo Magazine System liked the game a little bit more, giving it an 83%. In the single-screen platform game, Mario and Luigi have to run around punching the gantries under the critters to knock them on their backs, then jump up to the same level and boot them off the screen. It's a nice, cute, simple game, but only truly worthwhile in two-player mode. These days, Mario Bros. Probably won't hold your attention as long as its super sequels, but it is still a fun multiplayer game that is simultaneously cooperative and competitive. From a historical perspective, this game is absolutely fascinating, and a cool way to see the early inspirations for this long-running franchise. Only 1 year after saving the sewers from coin-carrying turtles, Mario and Luigi are back with their next game, the far less popular Wrecking Crew. This is a new side to the famous brothers, who can no longer jump because of that heavy hammer that they're swinging around. This ends up changing the gameplay quite a bit, showing a Nintendo that had not quite fully grasped the true charm of the Mario Brothers. That said, this is yet another fun look at the early days of Nintendo as a developer. You really see them fleshing out good and bad ideas, some of which would stick around in the super sequels, some of which would be quickly abandoned. As a Nintendo Entertainment System game, Wrecking Crew was completely overshadowed by the bigger and more popular games, many of which also starred Mario and Luigi. However, that didn't stop Computer and Video Games from giving Wrecking Crew a score of 8 out of 10, the same score that they gave Mario Brothers. The morning I got it, I played for 2 hours solid and got to level 18 before changing out of my jammies and into my clothes. Wrecking Crew is very playable, has plenty of levels to keep you interested, good graphics and sound, and, best of all, Mario and Luigi! Once again, Nintendo Magazine System also reviewed the game, giving it a slightly better score than CVG. With an 81%, they concluded that the graphics are simple but nicely drawn and the soundtracks are superb, making this platform hammer 'em up a treat to play. It's not easy, and there are loads of screens, and even a designer option if you want to try and make your own. You know what, much like Mario Brothers, this is a fun way to revisit Nintendo's past. And with a level editor to play around with, does that mean that this is the first Mario Maker? Yeah, I'll let you be the judge of that. Although Nintendo hasn't always handled it properly, Metroid remains one of their most beloved franchises. In an era when games generally scrolled from left to right, this Nintendo classic dropped you into the middle of a large map and forced you to explore the surroundings, no matter if that meant going up or down or left or right. With confusing architecture and absolutely no hand-holding, it was up to you to make your way through the maze, find the upgrades, and defeat the Mother Brain. Was it frustrating? Absolutely! But it was also satisfying and unlike anything else on the market, making it a real standout on the NES. Once again, there aren't a whole lot of reviews to look at here, but I promise that at least one of them is going to leave you scratching your head. Let's go ahead and start with Computer and Video Games, which started to review Metroid, but accidentally changed its focus halfway through, I think? Okay, let's see if we can make heads or tails of this review. Calling it an absolute blockbuster of a game, CVG explained that there's just been so much that's been absolutely packed into this game. You can enter the level you left on Game Over by entering a special code at the game's start. And believe me, you will need this as you will not be completing this game in one sitting. Again, this game is hugely playable and is very gratifying to play. I really do think Nintendo is a match for Sega if it can continue producing software of such high standards. Alright, nothing unusual about that, right? Well, okay, now check out the very next paragraph, which talks about increasing your car's performance by collecting turbo, bigger tires, missiles, bombs, and a more powerful engine. The hazards are plentiful: puddles, oil slicks, pop-up bars, skulls, and drone cars. One feature I liked was the zipper patches on the chorus, which propel your car forward with a short burst of high speed. There are bonus letters around the chorus, try to collect enough to spell Nintendo. The game plays very fast indeed. Wait, hang on, what? Cars? Tires? Racing? What game are they even talking about? Because that's not the Metroid I remember. They ultimately gave the game a 7 out of 10, but even then, I'm not sure that it's for Metroid or that racing game they seem to be confusing it with. Yeah, this is a weird one. Now, you would think that things would be a lot more straightforward over at Nintendo Magazine System, but here we go again with the weirdness. Giving it an 80%, the review starts with @boxtext. Metroid is a graphically impressive, very cleverly put together arcade adventure with a lot of unsuck features to keep things interesting. It's a tough game, and ardent platform adventure fans will love it. Okay, I don't know what they were going for with the whole unsuck, but the rest of the review makes sense. The wording is a little weird, but hey, at least it didn't just suddenly turn into a review for a racing game. I don't know, the reviews may be weird, but the game still holds up. Obviously, Super Metroid is where the series really picks up steam, but this first installment is a cool time capsule that is a blast to play on the Switch. Hey, thanks for watching me break down these classic reviews. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new episodes just like this every time Nintendo adds classic games to their online service. Normally they do that every 2 or 3 weeks, not 5 or 6. 2024, am I right? Now, here's the question I have for you. What's your favorite early Mario game? I'm talking about games before he became Super, like Donkey Kong, Mario Brothers, Wrecking Crew, Punch-Out, etc. Let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back on Monday with a review of that new Pong game. And who knows, maybe Nintendo will actually announce something next week. Well, you wait to find out. I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.